It's time for me to do my yearly chore of harvesting the compost out of the composting chicken run and refreshing it with new run floor materials. And I thought this would be the perfect time to go over some of the things that we haven't covered in the previous composting run video. So we've covered the basics, like how to set up a run and maintain it, but I haven't gone into all of the different variables that can change how you might choose to set up your composting run. So while I do this work, I'm going to get into an explanation of the different ways that you can set up and maintain a composting chicken run. I get started with the harvest by scraping off the top layer, which might not be fully composted yet and has fresh poop and stuff sitting there. What I want is the beautiful, rich compost underneath. I'll rake this top layer back down when I'm finished digging out the compost and put the new wood chip mulch over the top. All this is going out to the garden beds where it will grow the best tasting vegetables. Chicken run compost is just fantastic for gardens. It is quite high in nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, the major minerals that plants need to grow. And of course, you're bringing in a lot of organic matter as well, which improves moisture management in the soil. It has been a really wet winter here so far, the wettest winter we've ever had in my whole lifetime. The finished compost here in the run is holding a huge amount of water, which helps the soil underneath not to get as saturated as quickly, although it has got so saturated with all the rain, and because it has pretty much finished composting, there isn't enough raw material left in it to work properly as a composting run, which is why I've got to get this job done, even though everything is still very wet. Here in New Zealand, we have a very temperate climate. It's relatively mild and we have quite high rainfall. So that all makes it quite easy to maintain a composting chicken run because things stay pretty much the same all year round. And that means that I like to do my compost harvest in the winter time. It's perfect for me because I can get my spring gardens set up, ready to go, and it is a good time of year to get in more wood chip mulch. However, if you live somewhere where the ground is frozen in the winter, then that's not going to be the best time for you to do your harvest and refresh. So just think about where you are in the world and what your seasons are like, and you might need to do your harvest and refresh in the late autumn or the early spring instead. But the great thing about when you have a good level of rainfall is that you don't have to worry too much about the composting process. The rain falls down and the composting happens. If you're in a drier climate, you might need to add some water to your composting chicken run so that it stays living and active, because that's what it's all about. You're creating a living system to manage your chicken run waste disposal issues. Adding new wood chip mulch is going to stop stinky chicken poop issues in their tracks. Here where I'm harvesting this compost and refreshing the mulch is my permanent chicken run. This run never changes location, it stays here. The chickens sleep here, so this is just a fixed permanent structure. So because it is a fixed permanent structure where the chickens always are, I have chosen to make it a wood chip dominated composting run. So what that means is I put in a huge amount of wood chip once a year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's enough. And that is going to compost in around 12 months, and then the compost is going to be finished and I can harvest it and refresh it. So it's sort of a once a year big job, and then it pretty much just does its thing as the year goes on, and that's a great solution for a permanent run. So from that perspective, you're using wood chips because they are really high in carbon, so they're going to break down much slower than using something like leaves or straw. If you're using leaves and straw and just other organic matter, you're going to have to constantly top up your run, and that's not something I want to do in my permanent run. I want to just get the job done and not have to worry about it for 12 to 18 months, depending on the climate and the kind of year that I'm having. The longer you've been running a composting run system, the faster and better your composting process sort of gets going and happens. So I've been doing the composting run system for over 5 years now, and I find it brilliant. But that means that my composting area, my permanent run, is like crazy efficient. It's very, very hungry for carbon, and I have to make sure I keep it extremely well topped up. And I need way more carbon than I used to need when I was just getting it set up. And that's because all of the natural living systems that are causing the compost to happen in the first place are just ramping up and getting sort of settled into their home. They're living their best lives. So that's things like fungi and earthworms and bacteria. All of these things in this ecosystem of composting are just living their best lives. There are so many earthworms cruising through my permanent chicken run system. It's insane. I didn't actually anticipate that happening. I'd never seen earthworms like that before, but they're in there breaking stuff down, and the fungi is growing through, and the bacterial communities that are helping all of this composting to happen, they're there, they're hungry, and they're making fantastic compost for me. So the longer your system has been in place, the faster the composting is going to happen, and the more high carbon materials you're going to need to put in. Particularly if you're doing it once a year like I do, you're going to need a lot of wood chip material to get you through to the following year. The more chickens you have in a space, the faster the composting is going to happen, because your chickens are contributing the nitrogen from their poop, which is going into the carbon, and that is on a very, very basic level what is happening with your composting chicken run to turn it from wood chip into compost. So the more chickens you have and the smaller the spaces, the more carbon you need and the faster the process will happen. And if you only have a few chickens in a large space, then you might get away with having your wood chip material in there for a number of years before you need to refresh it. So there's a lot of variables happening because this is a living system. A permanent run system is not the only way to have a composting chicken run system. I'm going to take you over to the demonstration run now, and I'm going to talk about an easier, potentially, way to manage a composting run system if you're planning on having a portable run system that's going to move different locations around your yard. We're going to talk about how you can set up a composting system in there so you can use your chicken run in a rotation with gardening. Okay, we are back here in the demonstration run, and I'm going to show you how I would set this up to be a rotating run system. So this is a portable run. The fences can move. And what I would do is I would set up a composting run in here for maybe 6 months, and then I would move the run to a different location and use the beautiful composted ground to do some gardening in. So let's look at what kind of materials you'd use to do a system like that. The run surface in this little portable chicken run is already a bit wood chippy and has some plants growing in it. So you can pop your chickens in here and let them eat down the vegetation before you get started with your composting system, and then it's just a bit more efficient. Let the chickens do the work to take it to sort of bare ground first. But once that's happened, you want to just find a whole bunch of organic materials. So here in the wheelbarrow, I have got a pile of just weeds and grasses that have come out of the garden, and that can just go on down onto the run surface. And I have, well, that's just some more, I think these are tomato vines from a long time ago. Then fallen leaves are fantastic for quick compost because they essentially go into leaf mold, but your chickens are going to make it for you. You can throw the leaves down whole. You don't have to worry about like running the lawnmower over them or anything. The chickens are going to do the work for you. So leaves are a really good one. I love fallen leaves. I go out, I collect a lot of them in the autumn and through the winter and bring them in to make composting chicken runs with. And then what I've got in here, well, some weeds that I've cut down, trimmed back branches, and I've got some partially rotted down straw. Now it doesn't have to already be partially rotted down, but mine just happens to be. So this is some flax straw from growing flax, and I'm just gonna throw that out here into the run as well. So the idea here is to put down materials that are going to break down faster than using a wood chip based system, so that you can rotate your chicken's space on a faster cycle than every year. And that is going to help with keeping the ground from going stale. It's going to help with parasite management, because when you're moving your chickens onto a different space of ground away from their manure and everything, you're going to help to break parasite cycles. So that's really, really handy. And if you're into gardening, it's going to give you a beautiful weed-free, composted down area that the chickens have tilled up for you already to plant your garden into, which is a really, really great thing to do. The chickens have pretty much done the work for you there. It's going to be really easy to get your garden set up and ready to go. Now, if you're not into gardening, if you don't want to make a home vegetable garden for yourself, what you can do with your rotating system, because rotating a small chicken run is a good idea for those other reasons, for parasite management, keeping the ground fresh. So if you've got the space to rotate it, I do recommend changing its location every so often. But if you don't want to do gardening, what you can do is you can plant a garden for your chickens. So that I've moved to a different spot, you've got this beautiful ground prepared, it's bare of all vegetation because the chickens have been there, and you can just go and throw out a whole bunch of seeds for plants that your chickens are gonna like to eat. You can put in pumpkins, you can put in different grasses like wheatgrass, barley grass, ryegrass that will grow up, and then when you're gonna rotate your chickens back into the area, they've got a whole bunch of food available for them to just go crazy with it. Then they can strip that area back down, put all of that beautiful carbon and nitrogen and nutrients back into the soil, and you can just rinse and repeat. Bring in your composting run materials and get the whole system, just rinse and repeat, moving it around. Maybe you have 2 locations, you change every 6 months. Maybe you've got 4 locations, you change every 3 months, depending on your climate and what you want to grow. So it's a really versatile system that keeps your chickens happy and keeps you happy. So I highly recommend, if you've got a small run and you've got the space to move it around your backyard, that you have a go with a composting chicken run rotation system. This simpler, faster composting system needs a little bit of a different management strategy. You're probably going to have to come and top up this sort of carbon material rather than just putting it in and walking away, sort of like the permanent run with the wood chip. You're going to have to keep topping up the materials because it might compost quite quickly. You don't want to end up with just a soupy poopy mess in your run. That defeats the purpose of having a composting run in the first place. So you're going to have to keep adding carbon materials every couple of months or every few weeks, depending on your climate. And you're going to want to make sure that it's not getting compacted down so your chickens can't scratch it. So you might need to come out with a rake or a garden fork or something and just move the materials around so that your chickens can keep scratching in there and making the breakdown happen. What kind of composting chicken run system you choose is going to depend on lots of factors that are relevant for your context. Whether you have a small run, a big run, whether you want to rotate your run, whether you want a fixed permanent run, what materials you have available to you. Maybe you don't have access to wood chips, so you need to do more of an ongoing topping up run system like this one here versus the big once a year job like in my permanent run. So you've got so many choices to make this a versatile system that works for you. And while whatever system you choose, you are going to get the benefits of earthworms coming in, fungi, bacteria, a living system that's going to handle your chicken waste for you.